This is our family homestead where we were raised from babies.
Yep, Alec and Helen Giles were the offspring of them. We had lots of good times here. And when Marie got a little bit older and really a sharp looking girl, there was a guy from Appin. He was kind of a different kind of a guy. And he comes to the door one evening.
Tim.
And my dad opens the door and he said, "What do you want?"
Oh, yeah.
And Dunk in a very sheepish voice said, I guess I want in.
Well, what else am I going to say?
I can remember Dunk coming here with the old Red International truck and picking Marie up.
I got stuck. Tell me about these steps.
They're a killer.
They always wear a tip, but they're worse now. They're sunk down further than they were.
Oh, it adds character, right?
They're a killer. That's the next one to get raised up and fixed.
Giles used to come over, and I remember him over
Yeah.
here and
Play with the dolls, and at one point had a fence so he couldn't get down, or a gate so he couldn't get down.
Louise Matheson used to come down
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, she'd stay for a week and
Yeah.
play here, play dolls, and
And how old were you then?
oh, probably 10, 8, 10.
Somewhere around there. Of course,
Old enough to stay out.
It wasn't not that many years. I don't
Old enough to stay outside and or to stay overnight.
I remember the hammock hanging from there.
Yeah.
So how,
Do you remember the party that you had when Mom and Dad weren't home what's the name for that? The tours.
Oh, happened, Pat and Ron Brothers.
Yeah, they were here. Playing some music that he didn't particularly care for, so he got some of my country music and played that instead. Remember later on, Dad and I did the roof on it.
Scotchman's.
Your mom and dad enjoyed
The
babysitting.
Scotsman's Ball
Well, where was it at?
in the Mount Bridges
Okay.
Town Hall.
what,
Yeah, we'd go to the IO hall and dance in Glencoe. And everybody'd go because you didn't have a babysitter. You took kids, and then when kids got tired at night, well, you laid a coat down in the corner and you'd lay your child down there, and they'd go to sleep and put them on kind of under the chairs so they didn't get stepped on. And
Everybody'd swing and sway to Mac McRae.
yeah.
well, Matt McRae had this cigarette in his mouth, and it was kept getting shorter and shorter, and
You know,
the
betting when
ashes
it's
were
going to drop.
and,
Get his pants on fire.
and he was the guy on the drums, and he had a really good orchestra. And I remember the times when they had the special dances. That was
Evening, the better he got.
the Scottish people from Eckford Township. And what was the name of that group? I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, Dunk Crawford was one of them, and he's a big,
Oh, I
heavy
don't
man. And when they would get started getting ready for a square dance, why he'd do a little step dance on the floor. And when he hit the last time he put his foot down, we thought it was just kind of the floor.
Bouncing up and down.
Find its own again.
We could go underneath. We could go downstairs and have lunch downstairs. And when the dancing was going on, and you were downstairs and looking up at the rafters that were going across, or not the joists that were going across there, the floor was just going up and down about half an inch like this all the time with them, all the people dancing.
Mac McRae usually gets sipping into the booze
Oh,
there.
yeah.
The more he
Well,
got,
they didn't have a bar, did they?
no, they just
No, no.
had a secret supply there, and when they have a little break, we'd get into it, and the more he took with the farther lean back on the chair till he thought he was gonna fall right out.
Then Don Webster, they,
Yeah, he's played
they played the saxophone, but he was Bill.
Yeah.
For your mom and dad.
Yeah. Well, it was just for their anniversary and had it for a bunch of years, and then when they were gone, we kind of split everything up, and so nobody else put a bid on it, so we took it and got it refinished and that.
And for which anniversary was this for?
40th, I'm pretty sure it was.
That was what some.
It might even been the 50th.
I thought it was their 50th.
Yeah, probably.
Could have been.
That must be Bob and Jack there.
One thing that
That great?
Mom and Dad both really enjoyed
What was
was
it say in the back?
looking after
1915.
Helen? Oh,
the
yeah, that's when she was born.
grandkids, like their
Her and Van
grandkids.
Annabelle were born the same year.
They really enjoyed that. Well, Mom always liked babies, so they were always glad to have get the chance to have us drop the kids off, and so they could.
Yeah, we call up when our kids were small and say, "Are you doing anything tonight? Could you maybe visit?" "Oh yeah, I'll be right over."
Yeah. And she could just take the babies and just go like this, and
Tell her about
Cuddle
the time
right up.
she was mad because Kathy was killing Lauren, or Donna.
Oh, yeah, when Lauren was born,
Not Lauren.
Donna.
Donna and Kathy. Both of
yeah, because of course they were only 11 months apart, and when Donna come along, well, she was in the buggy sleeping, and Krista, she decided that she'd want to go up and see what the action was, so she got up there, climbed up in there, and laid down beside her and went to sleep.
Oh, is that right?
Bob's mom came over. She's looking. She said she'll smother her. I said, well, I guess she's dead. She's been there for an hour now.
Yeah.
Been there for an hour now.
Wouldn't she give you a tuning in?
She just looked at me.
But,
Daggers.
but Grandpa really liked looking after the kids, and he used to take them in his arms and he'd dance around the dining room table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep moving and put them to sleep. He just enjoyed that. The kids
Yeah.
enjoyed going there too.
When the girls were over there, Dad would always go out later on in the evening and check on the coal miner's lantern, or that was battery powered, so she had that light and she'd carry it out there, and so when they had the fire over at their place, that was in the house, and so she was going to go back in and get it, and firefighters didn't want them to do that, of course, but anyway, the one guy went in and got it for her. She wasn't as worried about some of the other stuff, but you had to have that flashlight.
Yeah, when you come to our place, why, sometimes they get Dad dressed up. We got a picture of Dad dressed up. They put some kind of costume on him. He never minded. You come to our place, why, sometimes they get Dad dressed up. We got a picture of Dad dressed up. They put some kind of costume on him. He never minded.
Dad?
One thing that Mom always did, and I can't remember if Dad was there or not, but anyways, every Saturday night, or well, maybe not every Saturday night, quite often on a Saturday night in the warmer weather, they'd take us kids into town, and that was kind of the thing that all the families did back in those days, and they parked the car uptown, and then they'd sit there and watch people walking up the street this way and coming back this
You
way.
made all your neighbors, because that was the big night in Glencoe, so they'd
Saturday
be up and
night.
down, and some guys would go to the pool hall, or my favorite thing back then was going to the Fox Theatre if there was a decent show on, and then we'd go down to Great Grandpa and Grandma's there in Glencoe, and we'd meet there, and after the hockey game, when that was over, then we'd visit for a while, and then we'd all go home.
Some of the guys that I chummed around with, we would go in the pool hall and shoot pool, and Herm Bauer was the owner of the little kind of a
Lunch
small
counter.
restaurant and pool hall. And so, and when we'd finish shooting pool, then we'd go up and have one of his big hamburgers. And
That time of night?
But, yeah, they, back then, that's when Marty Robbins was getting going, and White Sports Coat, and
yeah, that's right.
Pink Carnation, and then Yellow Rose of Texas, and different ones like that.
Was the bowling then too? Did you guys
Oh,
bowl?
yeah. Jack used to spend quite a bit of time in the bowling alley at one time before he met Mary.
Well, I remember when I was just really little and the boys were out helping Dad, and Saturday night came, like Mom would get all the shoes out and she'd shine all the shoes up for Sunday, and Saturday we'd do the baking. She'd always make pies and cookies and tarts and squares, because that had to last for the whole week for the lunches.
Till Wednesday.
And yeah, till Wednesday, and then we'd have to go to the cold storage in Glencoe because we didn't have a freezer, so there was a cold storage in Glencoe. And
When about was this?
when would that be?
Oh, back in the 60s, probably, early 60s.
We had a refrigerator, but we didn't have a freezer,
Right.
so you get out whatever you needed for the week.
Mrs. Aldred was there in the 50s.
Before
I know
the
that.
60s, because
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff was born in 63.
Late 50s.
Yeah. So, and then her washing machine was one that was a wringer washer, so and she had the 2 laundry tubs, so she'd put heat the water and wash the clothes, and then put it into the wash tub, like suck it out, and then put the rinse in, and then rinse water in, then put the rinse water out, and then put the soapy water back in again, and then run the clothes through, and they'd go through the wringer, and you'd have to release the wringer and let the clothes back out again.
All in the middle of the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
Oh, the gals got so easy now.
Yeah, and no dryer. Everything was on the
Clothesline.
clothesline.
And they talk
Or on the front
about
porch.
men's pants being froze now, but they were well froze out there.
Yeah.
They stood right up when you brought them.
They could, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If they're quite wet when you took them out.
Used to have that stand that you put up to hang the clothes on in the wintertime, and
In the basement.
yeah.
And then Mom with her laundry, why once it was dry, why then she'd bring it in, and she had a sprinkler and sprinkle all the clothes and roll it all up in a roll
Yeah,
to
yeah.
iron, so that it would be damp, and then she'd have to iron, and she ironed everything then.
Gee, a lot of work.
No, I don't think underwear, but everything else.
I know when we were growing up, we just had the wood stove and the old octopus furnace in the basement, and so it'd get really cold in the wintertime, and there's no heat upstairs other than what gravity fed up through the register, and boy, you'd grab your clothes and run down by the kitchen stove and back up to it and put your clothes on.
Yeah, oh
And-
God, there was sometimes the snow, there'd be a little bit of snow, because the windows weren't that tight back in those days, it would drift in underneath the window and be on the window ledge. When you're up in the morning and.
Couldn't see sometimes because so much frost in the wind you couldn't even look out.
Yeah.
That's right.
And the pot, we didn't have a bathroom upstairs, we just had a pot.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it'd be frozen in the morning.
And this didn't actually happen to us, but this is a story about these two brothers, and the one brother came into the bedroom, and the other brother was kneeling down on the other side of the bed, and he said, "Tim," he said, "don't be peeing there, the pot's on this side of the bed."
Mom was
Probably
pretty
asking
crafty
his
though, she
prayers.
embroidered
Or
and
saying
she
his
sewed
prayers.
and,
I used to have to do
And,
that.
Are there pictures in there of that kind of stuff?
No.
and she used to give me a perm in my hair because we never went to the hairdresser, or at least I don't remember.
No, I don't think so.
Who cut her hair?
Dave did.
They used to some at one time, but most of the time, once we got a little bigger, we went into Webster's and got our hair cut at
The
Webster's.
Websters, I guess it was at that time, yeah.
But Mom would give me a
Well,
permanent
Don worked there too, but.
prom, they
Bill's,
called it then.
father.
Yeah.
And I can remember Dad saying this, anytime that new friends or new people came to the house, why, he had this saying, he said, well, you know, when I married Helen, she was as poor as a
Crow.
crow, and he said, look at her now. And of course, that was after us kids were growing up a bit, you know, about 6 years old, so when you're having kids, 3 kids, why, you tend to put on some weight, I guess. Of course, she was a good cook, so probably enjoyed her own food as well as we did. We had Dad in the spring of the year, say the end of May, he would let the chickens, the hens, go outside and root around in the grass and the dirt and so forth and catch fishworms and stuff. But the problem is, we as kids, we were running around our bare feet, and that oozy manure from the chickens was here, there, and everywhere, and it would squeeze up between your toes. Oh, I hated that. I just hated that. That was terrible. Then,
You didn't do that too, did you?
One time my mom come out to the yard, and she was after Dad to help bandage her hand. She got one of those slicers for slicing vegetables and that, and got too close and sliced her fingers open, so you had to bandage her hand up. So
That's from London Fair, I bet.
yeah, that's right.
Probably.
Yeah,
You go to London Fair and she'd pick up those gadgets to use
that's
for
right.
slicing and dicing and all the,
All kinds of gadgets.
yeah, yeah.
She loved to catch.
Talking about London Fair, this was later on when I was maybe 12. I was wanting to see a whole bunch of the fair, and then I kind of got lost or got away from Mom and Dad. I didn't, so I was kind of looking at stuff, and it was of interest to me. And then when I was thinking, oh, it's about time we should be going home, I didn't know where they were, so I started running all over the place to see where I could find them.
What were they doing,
And in the
panicking?
meantime, in the process of doing that, why, there was a bar. It was dark, but you know, it was about 10:30 at night, and this bar was just right at my forehead, and holy mackerel, knocked me right down on the ground. I was running. Gee, that sure hurt for a while.
Would.
Mom used to like talking on the phone a lot, so one day she was talking on the phone and Dad was down in the basement there, and he knew just where she was up on the floor above, so he took the axe and hit the bottom of the floor and scared the devil out of her. She says, oh, Alec, right over the phone. That really bugged her.
Remember how he used to do that with
heard
pigs,
about that
why
before, but-
he'd bed the pigs, and then he'd go in there and he'd boop, 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 boop.
Yeah,
Get them all
stirred
running
up.
around, and
I can remember that, when I used to go down to your place, he'd do that.
Yeah, in the wintertime with Dad, I'd bring in cattle from Western Canada, about 450 pounds, and then he'd feed them through till spring, and then sell them in springtime, and then he'd use that same barn to put a whole bunch of pigs in there and feed them for the
Yeah.
summertime.
Yeah, sometimes they have one corner fenced off so we could have a few pigs, and they'd run in with the cattle too. So
and the chickens. Mom had the chickens and gathered eggs and sold them, and
took cream into the creamery to get some money.
That was one job I did not like. It was okay for the first 10 minutes, but you have to
Hand cream.
hand crank that cream separator, and you had to go at the same speed all the time. You couldn't go too fast, and you couldn't go too slow. And after about 10 minutes of doing that, well, you kept thinking, oh man, I hope that cream is finished pretty soon. I'm getting tired. We never did get I don't remember ever getting a
Belt it.
electric motor to put on it, and a belt and everything, but
And then Mama had to wash it.
oh, that was a heck of a job. That was a terrible job for Mom, cleaning all that sticky milk and cream out of the, how many, about 12 discs, was it in
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, we'd rinse it and get some of it out, and then you'd have to clean the rest of it out.
Dad was really good on the harmonica. He must have started playing the harmonica when he was quite young, because he was really good at it. And every
He
time
was
that-
self-taught?
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
When we go over to the
Just played
Pratt
by
side
ear.
in school, that's where everybody gathered if there was a shower or somebody was, one of the young people in the community were getting married, or card party, well, not too often at card parties, and then they'd have 2 or 3 people to do some music, and so they always had Dad play the harmonica, so.
And when he taught the younger people to play the harmonica, he taught them the wedding march, and he'd get to the part and he'd stop and he'd say,
Here
and
comes the bride.
bride and fat and wide. When George learned to play the mouth organ, he had to stop there and then he'd go on.
Years ago, they used to have the farm forum on Monday
Yeah.
nights, and some of the kids would go, and then the boys would get that old hockey game, and you'd be running that and making way too much noise. They'd have to tell us to quiet down a little bit.
Every Sunday night, Dad would wind the clock.
Yep.
So it must have been a 1 week clock.
Yeah, it was a 1 week clock.
Yeah.
Back in those days, they had thrashings at the different farms, and there was usually 6 different farmers that all worked together. And a custom thrashing machine would come in, and so we were going to this one neighbor this one day, and it was maybe 9:30 in the morning, and Dad said, "Oh, I gotta shut the windmill off before we leave, so it didn't run the water over in the basement of the house." So he says, "You take the team and take them down the road, and I'll meet you after I shut the windmill off. I'll come over to the road and meet you." Well, I got out on the road with the team and got them turned to go down the road, and they sensed that it was some young
Rookie.
didn't know what he was doing, so they started to go a little faster and a little faster, and pretty soon they were running, and I was scared as heck, and so he had to run across the field. Thank goodness there was nothing in it that was high, and catch up to the back of the wagon by the time we got to the line fence between us and the neighbors. And because it didn't matter how hard I pulled, I wasn't strong enough to pull the bits back in their mouth far enough to make their mouth hurt. So it was quite a miracle. I think he put his legs must have been going awful fast to be able to catch the back of that wagon. So he climbed up in the wagon, and as the wagon was running, and once he got a hold of the reins and they heard his voice, well, then they slowed down.
And that was Charlie and Queen.
Oh, I
horses.
forgot what their names were.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a scary point in my lifetime when I was
We used
young.
to, at one time, we used to have the loose hay, and it'd go on the wagon, and then you take the wagon up to the barn, and then they had the hay fork, and you'd drop it down in the hay and hook it, and then you'd take the rope and pulling, the horses would pull it up in the barn, and then you could run along with the cart into the back end of the barn, and then trip it and drop it. And of course, the best part about the thrashings was the meals you got.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Pies and
2 or 3 pieces of pie after you had your first course. And
Of course, everybody gets so stuffed where they could hardly handle the fork after dinner.
yeah.
And then one thrashing, we were over at,
Gardeners?
and up to the
Bill
next
Abbott's?
corner, Bill Abbott, over at Bill Abbott's. And so we're thrashing over there, and by golly, this one guy was up on top of one of the farmers was up on top of the thrashing machine, and the auger that comes out there, there was a doggone rat that got in the auger, and so he grabbed a hold of its tail, and of course it was dead then. And then there was a guy down below bagging with a bagging the grain, and he dropped it down the chute, so it went right in the bag just as it was full, and the guy dropped took his hands off the bag and jumped back, and of course the darn bag went over on the ground, and he scared the heck out of him.
Used to set the thrashing machine up so you get the grain close to the granary, and then you'd have the spout at the other end to blow the straw in the barnyard, and that's where you
Stack for the stack.
yeah.
And then this was back. Oh, this was not. We're jumping ahead in time now, because this is when Mary and I were going together, and she was working at London Life, so she came. So I picked her up and brought her over to our place that weekend, and then Sunday night she stayed overnight. Or I mean,
Saturday.
no, that's not right.
Saturday night.
And so Grandpa said, "Well, I'll take if you want. If it's okay with you, will Grandma and I'll take Mary up to your sister's in London, so you don't have to drive her all the way home up there." So I said, "Okay, that's fine." And Grandpa Matheson was a very fast driver. He had a 98 Olds, and he had lots of power in that car. And he got going pretty fast, and then he got to
Mile a minute.
he got going to
Yeah, I remember him.
up the back up the road going up towards Kamoka, and there's a curve, and quite a sharp curve in that road, and he was going so darn fast he missed the curve and went right over
Into the field.
down into the grass, and the car swung around him, and
What'd you say?
he was so embarrassed.
Maybe that's where I get my speed.
Oh.
Bob says that Grandpa went a mile a minute.
And look down the speedometer, run 60
Well, your sister, she's the one that
60
drives
miles an
fast,
hour.
let me tell you. Scared me.
But
Dad, you're-
Grandpa was so embarrassed about that. Oh, he was really embarrassed. He just felt terrible.
Well, Dad used to kid Mom about, oh, you weigh just as much as I do, or more than I do, and he'd always try and sneak into the bathroom when she was on the scales to see how much she really did weigh.
Yeah. She never liked that.
No, she didn't like that at all.
Then there was a guy who used to come to buy cattle, Archie McMillan.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I don't know how that started, but I went out there and he gave me a quarter. So then every time he'd come, why, I'd be right out there, because every time he came, he'd give me a quarter. So otherwise I wouldn't have been out there.
He was a cattle buyer, so.
That was before Don Crothers started buying most of them.
Yeah. And then we had the TV. Well, we were a long time before we even had a TV, and it was a black and white one. And you had to go outside to the TV tower, and one on the inside and one on the outside. No, a little more to the right, a little more to the left. No, try and clear up that, so we didn't have a rotor or anything.
That white TV actually, or the old TV actually came from Grandpa Matheson, old black and white TV.
Yeah, weren't we excited when he brought that day?
Yeah, boy, you look at the picture and you couldn't get hardly any channels, but boy, you'd be just like a snowstorm trying to see a picture.
Yeah. Duncan and I met, and I was just a little girl. They said that he had robbed the cradle, and I met him at a 4-H wiener roast over at Melwood Park. And that was many years ago, about 52 or 3.
The story you're going to hear, a whole bunch of 4-H clubbers went down on the train to Toronto. So there was 4-H'ers from Kerwood 4-H Club, Glencoe 4-H Club, Ilverton 4-H Club, Thorndale 4-H Club. We got on the train, and by that time it was getting near dark. We were the last ones to get on the train, and so we were walking up the car, and the first car was full, so we had to go to the next car. Room at the far end of the car on the left-hand side, so we went up there and sat down, and there were 2 girls sitting opposite us. So then one of the girls was Mary Langford, and the other girl, I can't remember. So the girls, after length of time, of course they had to have the lights on then because it was dark, they went to the bathroom, and so we decided we would try a little stunt. So back in those days, you could turn the seats around to face the other way. So I sat in the one seat, and Dawn sat in the other seat, so that meant there was only 2 places that they could sit. They had to sit with this boy or they had to sit with this boy. So Mary never actually told me why she sat down beside me, but I'm glad she did.
And the rest is history.
That's right.
Yeah, well, the junior farmers had a bus trip to go to Nashville, Tennessee, and so I thought I'd like to go to Nashville, so I got a ticket, and there's a few from Glencoe and Appin area got on, and so Anna was on the bus, and so we're driving for a ways, and there was of course the girls were talking and whatnot, and I was sitting in a different seat, and then on the way home there was the 3 girls together, and there's only room for 2 on each seat, so one of the girls asked if Anna could sit with me, so I did, and so I said, well, I got to get off, and because they were about 3 hours earlier than they figured they would be, so I said, well, I can give you a ride home, so she came to our place, and so we come in the lane and dropped us off, and Jack was there in the laneway, and I don't know what they were fixing. He had a hammer in his hand, and we got out, and he looked, and gee. So what happened? He dropped the hammer and said, Bob, sir, he's got a girl with him.
And they take in the truck. Wonderful truck after it was supposed to be this wonderful car and all of this wonderful car, and I get to go.
62 Pontiac Laurentian 2-door hardtop. How can you get much better than that?
Got to go in the truck that they moved pigs in that day.
But anyway, so we started dating after that, and as they say, the rest is history.
No, we had a very good childhood. We were never abused, and we knew that we were loved a lot, and we didn't have a whole lot of wealth, but we had a whole lot of
love.
love.